In a time of constant information overload, and when YouTube channels all about wrestling will break stories before they even happen, that's us, isn't it? It's hard sometimes to maintain a sense of kayfabe. In fact, the idea of kayfabe is somewhat antiquated in 2020. So it's always nice when we see a wrestling product take that antique out of the cupboard and dust it off. This is NXT Graded. We open with a #1 contenders match, winner facing Io Shirai for the NXT Women's Championship at TakeOver. It's Dakota Kai versus Rhea Ripley. And this is a dominant showcase by Ripley to get us started. Dakota Kai can't get a look in. At one point, Kai is trying to pull Rhea Ripley out of the ring, and long story short, she ends up eating an electric chair onto the apron. Kai gets a look in during the break when we see she drives Rhea's head into the middle turnbuckle, but she's not on offense that long. Huge flapjack from Rhea Ripley puts Ripley back in charge. Kai is really feisty here though. She manages to fight out of a riptide, manages to escape the prism trap. They end up fighting on the top rope, and we see Ripley just punch Dakota Kai all the way to the ground. And as the referee's checking on Kai, here's Mercedes Martinez, who just boots the face of Rhea Ripley. This is the opening that Kai needs to hit a modified go-to kick for the 1, 2, 3. And Dakota Kai is the #1 contender for the NXT Women's Championship. After the match, Mercedes Martinez wipes out Rhea Ripley with the air raid crash. Off to the races those two go. This was a B+. I couldn't tell whether there were parts of this match that were scrappy by design or whether it was just a bit of miscommunication at points. It wasn't a terrible match. It was actually a very good match between these guys. Really enjoyed it, but just a couple of those elements I didn't really buy into, really. Dakota Kai, on the subject of buying into, Dakota Kai, this is a big opportunity for Kai. And right now, the quality of in-ring competition in the women's division, I think, is at an all-time high. So this is a massive moment for Dakota Kai to shine. And the question is she ready to be in a situation like this? I'm not 100% convinced. I think she's great. I've been a fan of Kai for years. I'm intrigued to see where this goes. I'm not sure if she's ready to be in that position, but I would always rather be happy than right. So bring on an A-star belter at TakeOver 30. Let's do that. Bronson Reed, the thick boy, is in the house. He's taking on Shane Thorne. Strong Aussie contingent this week on NXT. We had Ripley, now Reed, and now Thorne. Excellent rep by the Aussies. There's a grapple to start, and then Shane Thorne says, let's just cut the pleasantries. And they just go into a striking affair. They go back and forth on this one for ages. Reed looks great here, dropping Thorne with a full Nelson slam onto the apron. Thorne does manage to rally, hit a beauty of a cannonball and a shining wizard for near falls, but the night belongs to Reed. Hits a Death Valley driver and that big tsunami splash for the 1, 2, 3. Giving this a B. Both guys looked really strong in this one. But this is the push of Bronson Reed that we're seeing play out in front of our eyes right now. We're getting him ready for his big match at TakeOver 30. Having said that, Thorne looked really good here as well. I think Shane Thorne has a real place on that mid-card in NXT right now. So I'd love to see more with him. Breezango arriving at Full Sail and getting jumped by Legado del Fantasma is what we see next. Breeze gets beaten down and Fandango gets thrown into the boot and driven away. More on that later. We move on to our eclectic triple threat challenge for the top contendership for the NXT North American title. Winner goes on to the ladder match to fight for the North American belt. This time it is Damian Priest versus Oney Lorcan versus Yorkshire boy Ridge Holland. This is excellent work by all three. We start with Priest laying in some heavy strikes. We see Holland then getting a shine in there as well. And then we watch Lorcan going wild. At one point doing a huge somersault sent onto the outside of the ring, right, wiping out Ridge and Damian Priest. Everybody gets a turn at showing off their stuff. For Priest, it is just that arrogant strike action. For Ridge, it is the heavy wrestling-based power offense. Overhead suplex onto Damian Priest looked mwah, chef's kiss. And Oney Lorcan is just this scrappy fighter who just seems to keep throwing himself into both men. At one point, we've got Ridge and Priest just banging each other back and forth like this, banging, banging, banging. And then Oney Lorcan dives off to the top rope and just sort of like somersault cross bodies into all of them. It was carnage. The end comes when Ridge Holland turns Lorcan inside out with a lariat. Damian Priest then drops Ridge Holland with a sit-out chokeslam and then hits the reckoning on Lorcan for the 1, 2, 3. This was an A. Excellent work. Best match of the night. Loved how different these three were, yet how beautifully all three worked together. Ridge Holland in his debut outing was very much put over like Rover. Despite not winning, you could tell there was a concerted effort to make sure that Ridge left looking strong. Priest was crisp in there as well, and I love Lorcan. And all three just had wonderful chemistry together. Really been enjoying these triple threat matches they've been putting on in the North American title contendership. They varied from very good to outstanding. Next, the NXT champion is taking on a man who is on his way to the moon. Cameron Grimes faces off with Big Keith here. He's keeping a distance from Keith to start the match and playing a little game of cat and mouse with our boy Keith Lee. Eventually leads him into a trap that sends him crashing into the steel steps. And from there, Cameron Grimes starts to get a little bit of offense over the NXT champion, which is always intriguing to see. But Keith manages to push back into it and just overpowers Grimes. There's a wonderful bit, though, where they're bouncing off the ropes and they have this cross body in the middle. Grimes is so good at this, and this works so beautifully every time. It looks like they both are going for their signature cross bodies, and they end up sort of flipping Matrix style mid-air, and Grimes lands on top for a near fall. This was really nice. Lee was done messing around shortly after this. He plants a Grizzly Magnum chop, followed by multiple short arm clotheslines, and then the Spirit Bomb for the clean as a whistle. 1, 2, 3. After the match, Karrion Kross on the big screen says to Keith, "Okay, I guess we're doing this the hard way. Everything that happens is on you." The camera pans out and we see Karrion Kross stood amongst the bodies and broken paraphernalia backstage. He's going to basically rip a hole through NXT in order to get to Keith Lee. For this match, I'm giving it a B. It was a good affair with these guys. I like the work that they did. Kind of this sort of finishes Cameron Grimes' run with Keith Lee, I believe. So Cameron moves on to something else. The Cross Lee story confuses me slightly in the sense that Karrion Kross said, "Hey Keith, do you want to fight?" And Keith went, "Yeah, I do." And then Kross has gone, "All right, well, we're going to do this the hard way then. I'm just going to keep hurting people till we get a fight." Despite the fact that Keith Lee has already said, I want to fight. And I know they play in a bit of William Regal. They play him into the picture with Regal saying, "Oh, I'll choose who has a fight here." But it's a weird storytelling bit because Keith Lee isn't ducking Karrion Kross, quite the opposite. But the story makes you believe that he is. Strange. We do hear from William Regal. He announces that Dexter Lumis has suffered an injury and consequently will not be competing at TakeOver 30, which is a little bit devastating after that performance last time. He says that Johnny Gargano and Finn Balor have got grievance in the fact that they weren't pinned in their respective contendership matches, and they want another crack at it. So Regal is putting together a series of matches with people who weren't pinned in triple threats to fill up the remaining spaces for the ladder match at TakeOver. So we should see some good combos over the next week or so. Legado del Fantasma enter Full Sail via the side doors, and they are dragging the body of Fandango with them. Santos Escobar talks about the prestige of the Lucha Libre tradition, says how Breezango mocked that tradition with their entrance at the Great American Bash. They throw Fandango into the ring, and it basically looks like they're gonna rip the guy's face off. Fandango is just no shape to defend himself. He's kind of got a hand up like that as if to protect himself slightly. It was very good work from Breezango. But then Tyler Breeze makes his way out to make the save for Fandango. Ends up getting beaten down as well, and they're just left in a heap, are Breezango, as Santos Escobar sends out a warning to Isaiah Swerve Scott to keep his name out of his mouth or this will happen to you. This was a B+. I really like the stuff that the Legado del Fantasma lads are doing. Breezango very much becoming the victims here. And this is what Breezango can do in NXT. Like, I like how they're back there now helping to develop the new stars and sort of being a little selfless in terms of how they get themselves across. And I think having, you know, having this team beat up a quote-unquote veteran tag team really strengthens the faction. We get a look at Undisputed Era's dominance in the tag team division ahead of our main event, where Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish will challenge for the NXT tag team titles. We also get an altercation between Bronson Reed and Damian Priest in the car park, and this is going to lead to those two having a one-on-one match ahead of TakeOver 30. Big beefy boys battering each other. Thank you, please. Back to the ring, and Pat McAfee is joining the commentary table for Tegan Knox versus Indi Hartwell. The match between Indi and Knox, it is Indi getting in the face of Tegan, very dominant by Indi to get started, but Tegan gets an opening just before the end of it, lays in the cannonball and the shiniest wizard for the 1, 2, 3. I wanted to run through the match because all this really was, with the greatest respect to Indi and to Knox. By the way, another Australian on the show this week. Love the Aussie love on NXT this week. Indi Hartwell repping. But I wanted to spin through the match because this was really just a backdrop for what was going on with Pat McAfee and Adam Cole. So obviously we've had the incident on Pat McAfee's show where Adam Cole stormed off. There were comments made about him being short, and this led to a big storm off, and a lot of people asked the question of, did this really happen? Is this the work brother? Is this a shoot brother? Pat McAfee on commentary talks about how him and Adam have patched things up and they're friends now, and Pat just sounds really glad to be there. They put over Pat's internet show and all this stuff, and Pat seems like he's good foil. He says he's going to stick around for the main event, which is next. It is the NXT tag team title match. Before we get to it, C+ for Tegan Knox versus Indi Hartwell. Very much served as a backdrop for the Pat McAfee Adam Cole story, which is a bit of a shame. But the stuff they did in there, it was good. Wasn't mind-blowing stuff, but it was good, so it's a C+. The clock strikes, main event o'clock, and it is the Undisputed Era. Kyle O'Reilly back in the ring, teaming with Bobby Fish to take on Marcel Barthel and Fabian Eichner of Imperium. As you would expect from these guys, this is a great match. They work so beautifully together. The chemistry between these teams is just off the chart. Again, the issue is that this is a backdrop to what is going on commentary, and we hear Pat McAfee it was subtle at first, and then it was borderline overbearing, where he started making short jokes at Adam Cole's expense, and Adam Cole is ringside with the Undisputed Era lads, not reacting to this at first, but Pat's just sort of putting the little digs in, and then when people call him out on it, he's saying, hey look, I'm just having a joke, I'm just kidding, and I'm not saying anything. Pat McAfee is an internet troll come to life. That's what we're doing here. I'm for it. Beth Phoenix got very annoyed with Pat McAfee making short jokes about Adam Cole and stormed off the program. She signed out of the Zoom call. She left the meeting, and the show continued without her there when it got to a point where Adam Cole heard enough as the match is continuing, which is still a really good match, but we're not focusing on that this week, it seems. Adam Cole left the ringside area, went over to commentary, and just told Pat McAfee to pack it in, basically. And Pat McAfee, as Adam Cole's walking off, makes a joke, calls him a grumpy little elf. And then Cole walks back and throws water in the face of McAfee. A load of officials turn up. Triple H and Shawn Michaels turn up, and they're separating McAfee and Cole. Back in the ring, Kyle O'Reilly, distracted by this, ends up eating a European bomb by Imperium for the 1, 2, 3. After the match, we go back to the commentary table where they're still fighting. Pat McAfee is led away, comes back, gets back in the face of Adam Cole, makes some digs about his height, and Cole jumps onto the announce table to try and get at Pat McAfee. And with his head leaning over the announce table, Pat McAfee rears back and just boots Adam Cole in the face. Triple H pushes Pat McAfee away, and Pat just swaggers out, complaining about how unsafe this working environment is, and leaves. And we end with Shawn Michaels tending to Adam Cole, who is spark out outside the ring. A lot going on there. This whole segment I'm giving an A- to, right? The match was great. and not enough focus was on the match. Like, I couldn't sit here and go move for move when there was so much storyline happening on the commentary table. So that took away a little bit, but I guess this is a bigger story that we're being told. It really, the Cole McAfee stuff blurred the lines a little bit last week. And then obviously when it was kind of revealed he was going to be on NXT, we kind of got the vibe that there was something brewing here. And the way that this panned out, I wasn't expecting, because I thought this would be Undisputed Era bringing Pat McAfee into the ring, pretending we're all pals at the Palace, and then just battering him. It's where I thought we were going, sort of establish Undisputed Era as top bad boys again. But as this match proved, as well as the segments around it, I think we're positioning Undisputed Era as babyfaces now. The other element of this that sort of knocks the grade down a bit is, okay, it was a really good angle between Adam Cole and Pat McAfee. Really great. So what's the payoff? Adam Cole versus Pat McAfee in a fight that has come about because one guy called the other guy short. This is Adam Cole. This is like the former NXT champion in basically a reprisal of King Corbin versus Shorty G. Like, I don't know how I feel about King McAfee and Adam C being played out on NXT, but you know what? I'm happy to be the better obscure company and see where we go with this. Personally, the stuff they did, I thought it played out really well. I enjoyed Pat's stuff on commentary that slowly turned him as well, so I'm going to give the whole thing an A-. And this week for me, NXT is a B. It wasn't the best show that we've ever had on NXT. It was certainly very good in terms of an in-ring standpoint. The Keith Lee stuff sort of positioned in the middle. Wasn't much focus on that this week because I think the focus was obviously on Adam Cole and Pat McAfee because of reasons. And there was some really nice in-ring stuff, like I say. Top marks to the match of the night, which was Damian Priest, Yorkshire lad Ridge Holland, and Oney Lorcan as well. Next week, another triple threat match with a mystery third entrant into that as well. Some amazing in-ring stuff going down next week on NXT. I'm very intrigued to see where we go, as we are just a couple of weeks out now from TakeOver 30. And Pat McAfee versus Adam Cole in a match based on height. Stay safe, love you, bye.